You're on.
All right, I'm your first speaker. My title is Chicago Murder Rate Soars, Extreme Town Hall. So friends, some of you may know, some of you, my friends, might know I live in River North. It's one of the nice neighborhoods in downtown. Tour boats go by my building. It's really, if you live in a big city, it's like downtown heaven. It's perfect. But the other day I was reading the paper, actually maybe a month or two ago. I was reading the paper, I follow politics, and there's an article that said the Chicago murder rate, the murder rate for the city of Chicago was up 70% from last year. And I thought to myself, this is a disgrace. A rich city like Chicago, and the murder rate is up 70%. I mean, that's probably unheard of in any major developed world city in the world. A world-class city like Chicago, and the murder rate is up 70%. Originally I thought the mayor should be fired, we should fire every alderman, the police chief, they should all be fired.
We already did that.
That's unacceptable. But no, Tim, they didn't do that. We can't do that. It doesn't work that way. So I started thinking, what are the reasons that are causing this? And I follow politics a little bit, and a few things popped into my head. One of the things that came to my mind was that since we've had some high-profile murder cases where the Chicago police have been involved, in some cases shooting innocent strangers, the police have pulled back. There was an article, Tim, in the Wall Street Journal, I think just yesterday you read the Wall Street Journal, and it said the Chicago police, because they pulled back, they're not as policing as aggressively because they don't want to get in trouble. Some people think they've lost the city to the gangs. So this is one reason I think what we're seeing. Another reason is, like I said, the mayor. It's a lack of leadership. Just a year ago, many people wanted to impeach the mayor, and I think he hasn't been able to provide the leadership, and this could be another reason. I don't want to call it blame, but there's enough reasons to go around. I think part of it, of course, is the community, has to do with education, lack of good jobs, and I also think some of it is personal responsibility. I mean, let's face it, I don't have a child, but many times I've thought about having a child. Would I have the resources to raise the child? So does everyone having children today, do they really think about these things if they're going to have a child? And the last thing I thought of, again, in some communities, only 20% of the children have both a mother and a father. So 80% of many of our lower income children just have one parent to raise them. I was a wild child myself in the 20s. I know I look very cool and together, but in my 20s I was pretty wild. But I had a mother, loving father to take care of me. Where would I be if I just had my mother? She had a lot of stuff to do. I might be a statistic. One of the hundreds of mostly innocent young people that have been gunned down because of some of the reasons I just mentioned. But of course it's easy to look back and think what we could do better. And we all have our own ideas, but I thought I would open it up to the floor here, since this is a town hall meeting. Does anyone like to jump in and give me some of their ideas on why they think we're seeing this in the city? Kent, you're a New Yorker. You
Right.
teach kids at the school. What's your ideas about this?
First of all, the murder rate's up.
Speak up, so
The murder rate is up 70%, but it's not.
Now it's 50%, but in a few months ago it was 70%.
But the statistic is misleading because it's not uniformly up 70% everywhere in the city. It's in areas of the city.
Right.
And if you want to find out why the murder rate is up, you need to focus more carefully on where is the murder rate up. And that then starts to tell you what the dynamics are that contribute to it.
Ken, you sound like a true politician, because to me, you're not answering the question. We already know this, but what can we do to make the situation?
What can you do?
I think the city's already focusing on these areas, but obviously they're not doing a good job. What specifically would you do?
Oh, I think you need to support the police in their activities. They talk about the Ferguson effect, which is the police withdrawing, and to me it's obvious that's what's happening.
So in your mind, that's the number one reason.
That's absolutely the number one. They're just pulling back, and it's not. I don't think they're pulling back because some tape. I don't think they're pulling back because they feel inhibited. I think they're pulling back because they say, I'm going to show you what it's like.
I also failed to mention in my intro that, of course, we agree they're pulling back, but also police need better training. I think that's obvious.
They need training.
If
but
they're going to aggress police
Yeah.
more aggressively, they definitely need better
They
training.
need training
as well.
and support.
Right. Good points, Ken. Anyone else? Maybe one of someone new to the city. Maybe you've seen in your city better ideas.
I have a very alternative suggestion,
Okay.
alternative in terms of an idea. Sometime back, there was an experiment done in Washington, D.C., where a group of meditators gathered together and were simply meditating on peace. And there was actually an effect on the crime rate in Washington, D.C., and back then...
Are we talking about millions of people or just a few
It was a
dozen?
very small group.
Oh,
It was no
but
more
they were
than
powerful.
100 people. And there was a measurable, statistically measurable ability to measure that the crime rate actually went down.
Maybe the people meditating were criminals. It gave them something to do. But probably not.
Yes.
But I don't need the joke. I meditate myself, so
Why don't the two of you get together and kind of like reduce
It's a
the crime,
possibility.
reduce the crime rate?
I'll take her to Panda Express. But
And you
That's
go-
a good place to begin meditating with some noodles.
well, that's another good suggestion. Mira, Tim.
Just to follow up with that, I mean, aside from people there, but also the people in the, it really also to the community itself has to be taking responsibility for what's going on, and that's not a bad idea. If you apply to the community starts meditating, getting together, and really getting serious about who's doing what, and where the problem people are, and really focusing on that. I think it has to do also with the upbringing, the culture, the whole environment that you promote in that sort of community. It's just huge.
So you're saying it starts more from the change has to come from the bottom. It ain't gonna come from the top down from the mayor. It's gotta kind of come from the grassroots, from the ground.
I think there's both things. If the change doesn't come from the bottom up, then obviously the top has to come down on it. But it would be a lot less to come down on if the change did come from the bottom up. There's a lot of talk, but I don't think it's really getting into a lot of talk about other people outside the community, talk about doing things, people actually in the community where it's actually happening, not really getting involved. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else? One of our guests.
I'd say one of the things to do is exactly what you're doing. Trying to
I forget, where did you say you're from again?
Haiti, actually.
No, but in the U.S.?
Where am I from in the U.S.?
Chicago?
You're from another city, right?
I live in Chicago now, but I used to be in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
So I think one of the main things to do is to find out why those crimes are happening, and not only why, like what happened, yes, but are those reasons that we're thinking are they accurate? So we all have thoughts and suggestions, but to what extent have we gone and measure and study what the statements that we're making mean. So I think it's really that's really the starting place. And once we have the answer, then we can actually act as opposed to react.
So kind of like with Tim, we actually need to go into these communities, talk with people, really find out what's going on. A guy like me in River North reading the paper, certainly he can have his own ideas, but they may or may not be correct. But we really need to talk with the people who this is happening to.
And it's not just that, it's like talking is one of them, but if you have like a particular hypothesis, you need to test it.
Right.
You know, and it's part of it is talking to the
A little bit of
community.
science.
Yeah.
All right, well, that concludes our extreme Postmaster Forum on Chicago's violence. But hopefully we've brought this subject more into the light, and together as a community, we will come up with some